Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. So yeah, in this video I am just going to go through all of the Blu-rays, the 4Ks, couple of DVDs that I've picked up in the month of April 2024. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So first up, I've just got a couple of DVDs to show you. Now recently I've been rewatching a lot of Lucio Fulci's films and I've been wanting to get into some of his more obscure films, so I picked up a couple on DVD, and the first one we have here is A Lizard in a Woman's Skin. This is one of Fulci's earliest films. It's a giallo film. It came out around the time giallo started to get big in like the early 70s. This one concerns a woman who is having these very vivid dreams about the woman who lives next door to her. And at first, the dreams start out kind of like in a sexual nature, but then she ends up having one dream about this woman where she murders her in cold blood. And then not long after that, this woman who lives next door to her turns up dead, and she has been killed in the exact same way that she has in the other woman's dream about her. And this woman who's having the dreams is obviously very alarmed about it, and she wants to find out what's happened, and an investigation starts from there with the police getting involved. And if you've seen giallo films, you know they have a very similar kind of feel, similar kind of structure. Some giallo films can be very hit and miss for me, but this one I thought was really good, and it's probably jumped up there as to one of my favourite giallos. Just had a very engaging story, great music, bit of mystery in there. Had a very surreal kind of art house feel to it, which kind of makes it stand out amongst some other giallo movies. But yeah, I thought this was a fantastic film, and it's probably also jumped up as my favourite Fulci film right now. I really, really liked it. So yeah, that is A Lizard in a Woman's Skin. And then the other Fulci film that I picked up on DVD was Manhattan Baby. This one concerns an archaeologist who's on like a dig in Egypt, and he unwittingly unleashes this evil spirit in an Egyptian tomb, and the spirit follows him back home to his home in New York, where he lives with his wife and his daughter. And yeah, the spirit basically just starts causing havoc and crazy things start happening. I've got to admit, unlike the other film, I really didn't like this one. I only watched it about 2 weeks ago, but I can barely remember anything about this film. It was just very dull, very boring, not very scary. It has some good gory moments like you'd expect from Fulci films, but yeah, on the whole, this one didn't really do it for me, and I'm glad I only paid like a couple of quid for the DVD, because I was going to get this one on Blu-ray, but yeah, I'm happy to just stick with the DVD for this one. Yeah, that is Manhattan Baby. Right, so onto the Blu-rays now, and the first one I have here is a German import. This is a horror film from 2015. I believe it's an A24 horror film. And it's a film called The Blackcoat's Daughter. I think it also goes by the title February. This film stars Emma Roberts and Kiernan Shipka. I think she was in that modern day Sabrina series from a few years ago. And this film is basically about this boarding school, and there's two girls who live at this boarding school. It's coming up to the winter break, and these two girls find that they don't have a way of getting home for the winter break, or at least not straight away. So they end up having to spend a couple of days in the school whilst it's virtually empty. And one of the girls starts getting harassed and possessed by this entity that is supposedly haunting the school. I thought this was a fantastic horror film. I was surprised I'd never really heard of it before, considering the cast and the fact that it's an A24 horror. But yeah, I really, really liked this one. It's one of those horror films that it's more of it gets under your skin. It's more there to unnerve you instead of giving, like jump scares and gore. It's more of a slow burn, like unnerving film. Got some very creepy moments, a great music score, great sound design, and yeah, it can get under your skin, this movie. Watch it when you have the lights off, when you're in the house by yourself, because you'll just get the right kind of atmosphere for it. But yeah, this was a fantastic horror movie, and that is The Blackcoat's Daughter. Next up, we have another German import, and this is a film that came out on Netflix quite a few years ago now, and I remember watching it at the time it came out, and I absolutely loved it. And I've been meaning to pick up this film on physical media for a long time, and now I can finally say that I have. And it is The Foreigner, starring Jackie Chan and Pierce Brosnan. Great revenge action thriller. Jackie Chan plays this guy who owns a restaurant in central London, and a bomb is detonated outside the restaurant, and his daughter is unfortunately caught in the blast and killed. It's like some radical faction of the IRA who take responsibility for the bombing, and Jackie Chan basically just goes on this vendetta, this revenge mission to get justice for his daughter's death. Pierce Brosnan plays this Irish politician who used to have ties to the IRA, but now he's more of a politician. But Jackie Chan's character just targets Pierce Brosnan, and he takes out his frustrations and his anger on him, and it kind of escalates from there. But yeah, just a fantastic thriller. It has a very Death Wish kind of vibe to it. The acting from the two actors is great. Jackie Chan's still great in all of the physical moments, even though he is much older in this film. But yeah, just a fantastic movie, and I'm glad to finally have it on physical media. That is The Foreigner. Next up, we have a film called Mr. Nobody, starring Jared Leto. And yeah, this is an interesting film. Jared Leto plays this guy who's like the last surviving human on Earth. It's set in the future, and it kind of goes back and shows his life when he was younger, but it shows it from different scenarios depending on the choices he made in his life. So, for instance, there's a scene where he has to choose between living with his father or living with his mother. And we as the viewer get to see both scenarios, so we see his life depending on what choice he made in his life. I think the movie's kind of meant to be about, the choices we make in life and how the smallest things can have the biggest differences depending on what we choose. So it is an interesting film in that regard. It's kind of an experimental one. I enjoyed it. I don't think I'll watch it again, or at least not for a long time, but I thought it was a very interesting film. But yeah, that is Mr. Nobody. Next up, we have a couple of films that I picked up in the Arrow video sale, and the first one we have here is Network, directed by Sidney Lumet. I picked this up mainly for the director. I'm a huge fan of him, and this is one of the films from him I'd never seen before. It basically concerns this news reporter who he has a bit of a mental breakdown live on air, and he says that he's going to kill himself in a week's time. And rather than, the management like showing concern for him, they realize that his broadcast ends up getting them the highest ratings ever. And, instead of showing genuine concern for their colleague, they basically just decide to exploit it for all they can. And I think the film's meant to be kind of like, a critique on how, it's always just about a quest for ratings, a quest for more money, and, all morals and principles just go right out the window. I enjoyed this film, thought it was pretty funny in places, an interesting watch. I don't think it's one of Sidney Lumet's strongest films, but I did enjoy it on the whole. It was an interesting watch. So yeah, that is Network. And then the other film that I picked up in the Arrow video sale, this one was down from £30 to £15. Now, I was actually going to get this back when it first came out, but I decided not to, just simply based on the reviews that the actual movie had. But when it went down to £15, I thought it was worth a go. It's another Lucio Fulci film, and it is Demonia, and this is the limited edition set that it folds out into like a digipack that's in the shape of a religious cross. This is like, I think they call it a nunsploitation film. It's basically about these archaeologists who are on a dig in this old Sicilian monastery, and one of the diggers there, she accidentally unleashes the spirits of these nuns that were condemned to death hundreds of years ago because they were supposedly practicing witchcraft or Satan worshippers. And yeah, the spirits just come back for their revenge. I wasn't going to get this back when it first came out, mainly because I'd heard pretty bad things about the movie, but on the whole, I didn't mind it. It wasn't amazing, but it had some fun moments. There's some good death scenes in this, some decent gore, and yeah, I just thought for what it was, it is essentially a TV movie. I thought it was pretty decent. You also get the documentary Fulci Talks. I've not watched that yet, but it's nice to have that in this edition. I think it's like a limited edition exclusive. But yeah, that is Demonia. Next up, we have a Blu-ray from Eureka, and it is Beach of the War Gods. And yeah, this is a martial arts swordplay film. It has that classic story where it's about this wandering stranger who wanders into town, and he agrees to defend the town against the invading Japanese. And yeah, I thought this was a fantastic movie. It was basically 80% action. I think the last 45 minutes of the movie is just action all the way to the end. And the staging and the direction of the action scenes is fantastic. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed this one. Feels very similar to Seven Samurai in terms of plot. Maybe the character development isn't as strong in this film, but I think it makes up for it with its fast pace and its action scenes. So if you like martial arts, swordplay type of films, Hong Kong cinema, definitely check this one out. That is Beach of the War Gods. Next up, we have another Blu-ray from Eureka. This is a new release, and it is Black Mask, starring Jet Li. This is kind of like a Universal Soldier rip-off film. Jet Li plays like a former super soldier who was part of this experiment. The experiment went wrong. The super soldiers were supposed to be exterminated, but he ends up getting away, and he's trying to live life, like a quiet life as a human being. But he ends up getting drawn back into the super soldier life when some of the other super soldiers come back and are committing crimes, and he wants to basically put a stop to it. I was a bit disappointed in this film, I'm not gonna lie. It had a cheap kind of feel to it. I wasn't a fan of the way it was edited. I didn't really enjoy the action scenes. I think generally I'm just not a big fan of Jet Li's brand of action, but maybe on a rewatch I might enjoy it more, but I'm sure a lot of other people might get more enjoyment out of this one than I did. But nonetheless, that is Black Mask. Next up, we have a release from 101 Films, and this is part of their Black Label editions. This was a movie that was never really on my radar, but I saw it on the shelf in HMV, and I was immediately drawn to it because of the cast and the director. And it is Fear City, directed by Abel Ferreira, who is best known for doing films like Driller Killer, Bad Lieutenant, and my personal favourite, King of New York. And it stars Tom Berenger, Jack Scalia, Billy D. Williams, and Melanie Griffith. It's basically like an early 80s serial killer thriller set in New York. Tom Berenger and Jack Scalia play these booking agents for exotic dancers, and the exotic dancers are being killed off one by a serial killer, and these two guys basically want to investigate what's going on and why their dancers are being killed. Billy D. Williams plays the police detective who's also investigating it, and he's telling them to keep out of it and let the police handle it. And overall, I thought this was a pretty decent film. It wasn't amazing, but I had a pretty good time with it. It definitely captures that sort of grimy New York, sleazy New York feel to it. It feels a bit similar to films like Maniac and Cruising. It's maybe not as shocking or as violent as those films, but still pretty good nonetheless. But yeah, that is Fear City. Next up, we have another release from 101 Films, again on their Black Label editions. And I actually thought this one had sold out a long time ago. But I went onto 101 Films' actual website and it was still there. So I decided to get it. And it is Johnny Mnemonic. And this is in the really nice limited edition box set. I know this film is a mixed bag for a lot of people, but on the whole, I actually don't mind it. I think it's okay. It's just a fun little action movie, like a futuristic action movie. Keanu Reeves plays this agent who he gets data implanted into his brain, and he has to transport it from one location to another, all whilst being pursued by these corporations who want the data themselves. And yeah, it's a very silly movie. It's maybe not aged very well, but I kind of have a soft spot for it. And yeah, it's just a real nice box set release from 101 Films. So yeah, that is Johnny Mnemonic. So next up, we have another release from 101 Films, again on their Black Label editions. This came out back in October, and I did want to get it, but I was a little bit put off by the price and also the fact that it's 3 movies, but I already own one of them. So it's essentially only 2 movies, but it went down to quite a decent price on Amazon, and I decided to jump on it. and it is the Bob Clark Horror Collection. So this is a collection of 3 films directed by Bob Clark. We have Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, Death Dream, which I think is also known as Dead of Night, and Black Christmas. I think most people will probably know Black Christmas. It's a fantastic horror movie, great slasher film, one of the earliest slasher films. And yeah, that was the film I already owned in this box set. But I've heard great things about the other two films in this set. So yeah, that's mainly the reason why I got it. Really nice box set. You get the sort of the 3 films in these like sort of custom covers that, you know, all kind of linked together. You also get like some postcards in there and a booklet. But yeah, not watched any of the films. Obviously I've watched Black Christmas, but the other 2 films I've not seen, but looking forward to watching them. If they're anything like Black Christmas, I'm sure I'm going to love them. But yeah, that is the Bob Clark Horror Collection. Next up, I've just got a few 4Ks here, and the first one we have is probably one of the biggest releases of April. I know a lot of people picked this movie up, and it is Aliens on 4K. Yeah, I don't need to talk too much about this movie. It is just one of the best ever, one of my favourite James Cameron films, one of the best action films, one of the best sci-fi films of all time. It's my personal favourite Alien film. Yeah, I just love everything about it, and I was always going to get this on 4K. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with it. It's just a fantastic movie. I can't say much more than that. Aliens on 4K. Next up, we have a new release from Eureka, a 4K release, and it is China O'Brien 1 and 2. Yeah, I'd never seen these films before, but I instantly pre-ordered this simply because I'm a big fan of Cynthia Rothrock. You know, she's the queen of martial arts. She's made some great films, especially in Hong Kong. But I'd always been interested to check these films out because I think they were like her first American films, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I watched these films the other night and I really enjoyed them. They're not very heavy on plot or character development. It's just fight scene after fight scene after fight scene, but I didn't mind that. I just thought it was a lot of fun. There's a real kind of charm to these films. They feel kind of like canon movies in places where, you know, it's just like low budget fun, you know, action and fight scenes take precedent over anything else. And yeah, sometimes you just can't ask for more than that. Yeah, I really enjoyed these films. So that is China O'Brien 1 and 2. And then my last pickup for April 2024 is once again another release from 101 Films, again on their Black Label editions, and it is Alligator 1 and 2, the first movie being on 4K, and this is the limited edition box set version of this, where you get the 2 films. I think you get a poster in there and a booklet. Yeah, I used to have these films on like this double pack DVD way back when. I think I was like 12 years old, and I remember enjoying them. I think I remember enjoying the first one especially, but I can't really remember the second movie. But I was always gonna get the first one on 4K. I was actually gonna get it from Scream Factory, but then when 101 Films announced this box set, I thought, you know what, I'll just wait until this comes out and get it. And yeah, I've not rewatched the films yet, but looking forward to doing that. But yeah, that is Alligator 1 and 2 on 4K and Blu-ray. So there you go, guys. Those are all my pickups for April 2024. Really hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen any of these movies. Have you picked up any of these particular editions? I would love to hear your thoughts. So yeah, thanks again for watching, guys. And I'll see you all on the next one. So take care, guys.